Yo tampoco entiendo.
En el chat.
En el chat tampoco.
Ahí está como
Como las fotos,
Yo me enteré a través de una cosa que había una reunión contigo hoy.
Hay 15 minutes.
¿Te quedó? Que aunque meeting sea distinto. Ajá.
How are things in Venezuela?
Getting worse.
Really?
But I think, at least, they are like, it's not getting worse, it's just the same, I would say. But it's been hard anyway. So.
Any possibility of getting some arrangements?
Well, they are making a couple of changes, the asambleas, but I think it will take time anyway. They want to take Leopoldo out of jail, but it will take
Is
time.
there any special agreement between
No, not
government
yet.
and opposition?
Oh, but the video that people send me, trying to find food, that's sad. Oh my God, it's just terrible. People fight, they hurt each other, hurting each other.
That's getting worse.
With a knife.
Why is Maduro still by pushing whatever? He's on a big TikTok.
Me too,
He's
but
still president. He's still got his term.
unfortunately,
But now he doesn't have any backup.
no.
He's basically alone.
Well, he's not alone.
No, he's not.
The opposition's got the majority, but there's still people in the consequence. He's got his choice.
Let's see, let's wait.
Majority, but the government has the power.
Thank you.
All the institutions.
Exactly. You got the power.
Okay, now let's get on with this. In the general meeting, Samir proposed we begin.
I knew it, eh?
What did you propose?
Okay, what kind of propose?
Peter proposed that I proposed.
It was a good proposal.
And you're proposing that someone else does?
No, it's just one of the concerns that I have, or one of the issues that I would like to discuss at some point is assessment, evaluation.
Yes.
How we evaluate, how we assess the mental ability of our students. And Peter asked me to find material, but I didn't have time. I jotted down some ideas, questions.
Okay.
But more about our specific situation in assessing. Of course, we need to think about the theoretical viewpoint in terms of what we understand in terms of teaching languages here, and according to that posture, how do we assess what we teach or what the students learn?
Yes, we should begin by taking a look at our specific empirical situation after year. That's teaching and learning, supposedly, English.
Actually, sorry to interrupt. Can I just say one thing before? In fact, I think this is very timely because one of the things that Diana asked me to look at the quality assurance. One of the things that will come up is exactly assessment, like a review of all the exams and everything. So I think this is a really good idea.
I understood
Just
really
start
get
a
it
conversation.
Somebody's very smart.
Yeah, that's right. So it's superbly planned. Sorry to
No,
interrupt.
it's okay, it's okay. This is a tutorial section. Tutorial
I like that.
section.
Yeah.
Anyone taking notes, getting down some ideas? Future, you will? Okay, thank you very much for a future paper or something like that, so we get the ideas and see whether we can write something, come up with something concrete. Okay, so the thing is that we are teaching English at Universidad, it says that our students must show certain level of proficiency in English in order for them to graduate. That's one requirement. Then, what questions could we raise around that situation?
The principal concern that I have is I look at some of the exams of level 5 and level 6, the midterm exams and sometimes the final exams too. And I'm not talking about, well, okay, there's assessment in a general sense in terms of all the assessment that we do. Exams, oral presentations, laboratory, written work, reading projects, all that kind of stuff, etc. But then there's the component of the exams itself, which is where I look at the exams that the teachers have prepared and I give them some feedback and I proofread the exams. And from those exams, every semester, the same question comes up in my mind. Is like, okay, we're supposed to be teaching English for communicative purposes. The idea is that our students are able to take the language and communicate with it, have successful dialogues with other people, etc. But then when I look at the exams, it's like, okay, if we're supposed to be teaching that, I don't know whether we're teaching that because every teacher's, the door's closed, they do what they want inside there. Are we really assessing that in the exams? It doesn't seem like it. It seems there's a bit of a gap between what we're doing in class in terms of teaching and what we're assessing. I feel like some of our questions are testing more knowledge of the language itself rather than the use of the language or being able to do something with that language. Partly that's because of the nature of the exam process. Multiple choice, fill in the blanks, tick, 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 basically. But partly it's because of the conception of the teacher of how to approach an exam. It's my humble opinion. I don't wish to be disrespectful or anything here, but that's how I see it. Because I see
Those are
variety.
facts. We're talking about facts.
I see the variety of
Respect or not respect.
I see the
These
variety
are
of
facts.
exams and variety of questions, and some questions do tend to go a little bit beyond the simple, like fill in the word with a blank here, or in the present perfect progressive, what do you fill in this exercise or something. I have some examples, like, you know,
It's
we
a
start with
discrete
exam.
point test or something like that, give the hand.
I mean, I think you're absolutely in tune with what people are saying at the theoretical level. I read something, in fact I was sharing it with one of the MA groups just last weekend.
Hello.
Hello.
Jennifer Jenkins, who writes a lot about English as a lingua franca, I think, has pointed out that if the model is no longer to model yourself on native speakers, and the idea is to produce competent intercultural communicators, then surely assessment has to change as well, and that you should be exactly what you've just said, Samir, that she says in almost those words, in fact, that you should be assessing what people can do with the language, not the structure of the language itself.
And I feel a lot of times we're doing that. No sé si usted habla inglés, no la conozco.
Yes.
Okay.
You can go on, sorry. This is Jenna.
Jenna, nice to meet you.
Yes. I'm Tina, I'm a French teacher, and I was trying to come this semester, but I couldn't, and I tried to get in time today, but I was a little late.
Welcome.
Well, don't worry, this is the first time I'm around, so no problem. Welcome to this tutorial. The thing is that universally, or whenever you have to take one of those exams or tests for certification that you are proficient, most of those tests are based on grammar and specific, I should call delicatessen in language or something like that, to see how high you are prepared in language usage, as Rico de la Viuda would say, there's a distinction between use and usage. So, the thing is, theoretically, where are we right now at this school? We say we are teaching English for communication, we are teaching English as communication, I don't know. I don't really know. We seem to be married to the European
Common framework.
common frameworks.
Yeah.
And, well, but that's what we believe, that's what we say. I don't know, because I'm a newcomer to teaching of English, very young. And I don't know exactly what the team, the teachers here have been doing around this theoretical and this approach and how we are prepared to face that situation, which we have adopted the framework, the European, the common, whatever. Okay. That's the first point to see. Because in order for us to understand or to plan some assessment project, we need to know where we are going to, where we're heading to, our aim, our objective. And we must have that idea clear. Because I've heard some of my colleagues here say, okay, when I come to teach English 7, I find an even group there, and all the, so not homogeneous, heterogeneous group, some are up, some are down. So what's been going on here? Has to do with the placement test, does it have to do anything at all with the process and language teaching we have followed? I don't know.
But that's part of the problem in a sense. The idea of having uneven groups of students in higher levels, one of the possibilities that I see is that is the assessment that we have in the lower level. There's students get really good at answering exams based on grammar, structures, vocabulary. They know how the language works, I suppose, or they find a way to answer exams really well. I'm not sure which it is. But when it comes to real expression of that, using that language in real expression, real communication, that's when they struggle. And then, I don't know how much Tim is familiar with levels 7 and 8.
I was just about to say, could you sort of talk us through what they have to do for
I
it?
have the benefit of teaching level 7 and level 5. Up to levels 1 to 6, we follow the book, and that demands, or that sort of,
In those levels, we teach in all the ground. And in level 7 and 8, they are supposed to use all what they already have already learned in writing, reading, and speaking.
So
They are supposed to know all the grammar.
There's no new
It's
content.
like producing, like a time to for them to
But
produce.
when we have the biggest projects in level 7 and 8, normally, we remind them a specific grammar topic that is important for them to include in that activity. For example, in level 8 can be connectors when they write the essay. Something like that, but we don't spend the class teaching them grammar. We use vocabulary in context. That is the difference.
see, that's part of the problem with the conception that I'm talking about. It's thinking about what levels 1 to 6 is being grammar oriented classes, and level 7 and 8 production. It's not supposed to be happening.
And actually,
It's supposed to be producing from the start.
just speaking at level 1, and something funny was that as a student, she speaks English. She was speaking. Hey, hi, okay. I was like, oh, Jesus. And all the students were kind of, my God. I said, you take the placement test? Yes, I did. And they told me you're supposed to start at level 1. So the placement test is focused on that, in grammar.
I suppose so.
Grammar, reading.
Because that for me, that was my impression. Because she was, I mean, the moment I began class, I can tell that she was more than a 2. I mean, so I was okay. So and I asked her, oh, how was your placement? And oh, yes, I took it. They told me I'm supposed to start at level 1. So I thought, okay, they were testing grammar, vocabulary, and so on. But in terms of speaking, she could communicate pretty well.
No, but the placement test is
I
complete.
happen
There's
to be
everything.
in a
There's
placement
grammar,
test.
vocabulary, listening, reading, and speaking. That's all. So whoever placed her.
No, actually, I was thinking, I wanted to check
I
that.
mean,
The thing is, we need to follow these cases back to the trip, because Ramon had the same situation, so either there's
I have
something
the
wrong
same-
with the
I have
placement
the same
test,
situation.
or with the people
as
who
well.
are administering
Yeah.
the placement test,
Exactly.
or the system
Or,
that's
uh-huh.
scoring, something is going
So
wrong.
I'm waiting for the second class, I'm waiting for the second class
Okay,
to
that's
see
one of the biggest questions.
what's going on.
The way the
What's
placement
going
exam,
on here?
But we need to
But for
follow the
French,
trick.
No, no,
they
that's
didn't.
fine, that's what I'm
They
saying.
have, they
I
have
was
to
helping
say,
with the
Yeah,
placement
maybe
exam.
you have some students from Enero,
Yeah.
or INSA,
Yes.
and you already know that, so, but, I think that with the licenciatura, they can't make a homologación, because they see also English one, and they already know that, but,
Okay.
yeah.
The way the
Because
placement
we
exam
have the
goes is
certification
different now.
French. But for English, it's the same. Last semester I have the same problem, and this semester I have the two students also that they speak very well, and they said, no, I don't know. When I took the placement test, and they told me that I was
The
in
placement
level
test
one,
is
but
relatively new, the one that we're using, the changed placement test is relatively new. It's possible there's something wrong going on
Is
there.
it-
But that's a different issue though, in a sense, because that's not.
I just
I want
wanted
to say
to
something. The placement exam goes like this. The students take it, and if the first and second part goes over 60%, and then part 3 shows up. If it doesn't, they won't even go to an interview. It's just right there is determined that they're going to level 1.
They fail the first part, they
That's
can't
it,
go
yeah,
down.
they cannot, uh-huh.
Like you
And a
said,
lot
they
of
won't
them
be
end up
testing
in
on
level 1
speaking or
because
listening.
we used to have a lot of teachers doing interviews, and we were interviewing even the ones that did really bad in the computer. Now they're only doing it to the ones that pass level 3, and it's 6 levels. So if level 3, I don't know the level, they call it part. Part 1 and part 2 is mandatory for everybody. If that part, if those is over 60%, and then the computer shows part 3,
And are those only writing?
is what?
No, that's questions, grammar.
Grammar
Everything,
questions,
everything.
everything, including
Yeah,
speaking?
they pass the
And it
system,
gets
they
more
speak.
complicated as it
No
goes up
speaking.
to part 6. And then from part 3 and part 3, part 4, and part 5 and 6, they go to the interview.
That's what
But
it's-
if they don't
That's
get
where
what
the speaking comes in. Yeah, it's a slightly strange system, isn't it?
The thing is that the way we devised it was, we were thinking, okay, in the placement test, there's a set number of questions which correspond to our level 1. A set number of questions which correspond to our level 2, according to the Common European Equivalent, etc. Okay. So we said there's about 200 questions. There's no point having everybody answer those 200 questions if they're not going to be in the right level, etc. So it's staged.
Yeah.
And in addition to the grammar and vocabulary questions, there's a listening section. There's 3 listening exercises, if I'm not mistaken. Again, an easy or a simple one, a more complex and a more complex one, etc. And same for the reading. There's 3 reading comprehension exercises. So the philosophy, the logic was, I don't know if this is how it actually works, but the logic was basically come in, take an exam. And if you are doing well in the first part, you're allowed to continue until you reach a point where you're struggling. Then you stop, and the exam closes, you get a grade, and from that point you go to an oral interview. And there's a combination of the oral interview grade or ranking and the exam grade, and put together that gives you some sort of classification of your level. And if you can't
So there
answer
is a
those-
speaking element then,
there is,
always,
yes, fine,
right?
but it seems that it's not always there.
But just if they pass
From level, from part 3 to part 6, they go through the oral interview.
What happens if part 1 and part 2, they get automatically
No,
classified?
If they don't go, they finish part 2,
They
and
cannot
part 2
take the-
doesn't go
they need to have
higher
30
than
points.
60%, and that's.
They
So
need to
they
have
have to
at
have
least 30 points to make the oral exam.
Otherwise.
If they have less, they don't
That's the
go.
problem, that's the
But for
problem
example-
why, even though they speak or have certain level, it's
That could
probably
be one of the
grammar,
reasons.
something they get.
That could be the
So
reason.
for example, the student that I have that speaks fluently, she speaks very fluent, but she has a lot of mistakes with grammar.
Well, then
So
we
she
go
said,
back
I don't
to,
understand what I am
English.
here. She said, I don't understand what I'm doing here because I can't speak. But her grammar in the speaking is not okay. So I want to take the exam again. So what I did was, I told her to stay in level 1 do a good level 1 to make sure that everything she needs to correct, we can. And then probably next semester, she can try taking the exam again. I don't know.
But we come
But
to
the
the
argument
issue
there
that we
would be that
discussed.
she belongs in level 1. Although she speaks well, she still
But
needs
she
to
speaks-
prove other
but-
things that
yeah.
could help her.
Or probably her grammar is
So,
not
I mean, in a
attractive, not
sense,
good
she
enough.
belongs in that level 1.
But we're talking about English for communicative purpose, so the discussion is if the student has certain linguistic competence that is not that the one that you're asking for the level of 1. Probably there are some mistakes, but the person is able to speak. And, I mean, how can we handle that? Because, for example, this student probably should feel, I mean, soon she'll quit. She'll say, no, look, I don't feel well. Anyways, I told you, you can work with us, you can help me, we can work with, But anyways, that's the discussion. And we say that we are testing based on grammar, which is
But that's
important.
something we
Because
have
if we see-
to discover and see who is who and then see what we can do in order to help those students, those who are able to speak, but whose grammar is kind of messed up. I don't know.
And what about the other? I asked some students that we already have the first presentation and that was it. The whole presentation was fillers.
Well, that's the idea. No, if we really want our students to come out of the program with a certain level of proficiency, then we should find out what's going on and who is who, and see how we could handle those courses. Because we may have some conversation courses, may have some grammar courses or something like that for basic structures or something. Of course, related to conversation and writing and reading, not just grammar per se, but functional grammar in a way.
And what about?
Well, that's something that comes up now, and I see, okay, is there any possibility for us to do such thing? But we have to find out what's going on here.
What about if all the midterms for level 1 through 6 are similar to the ones that level 7 and 8 students have? Because the level 7 and 8 exam is, they have a reading and a video normally, and with the information of both, they need to write. And we have some vocabulary questions. But all the objective of the reading is the listening is that they write. So they really, I don't know, it's a different type of exam because it's with what they know, with the grammar they know, with what they can produce.
It feels more in
It's
line
like
with
different.
the communicative purposes
Different.
rather than the other exam. It feels, whether, I mean, everybody put their
Yeah.
own interpretation, but
You like those texts or not?
it feels a little bit more oriented towards communication rather than just simple grammar exercises. The thing is, that, okay, going back to the exams, I don't know, can I show you some examples?
No, please do.
Yeah.
We're talking about the evaluation.
If you look at some of the exercises, it just seems like they're so
the
isolated.
evaluation system.
One point from another is completely isolated. They're simply asking for knowledge, the basic knowledge of the simple of the word or of the grammar structure, and that's it. There's no coming together of the things like in a written text, for example. So that seems.
I have also a question because I already don't know why in the midterms we don't have a speaking
Which is the other.
activity in the exam. I mean, as Johnny said before, we try to focus on no, en habilidades comunicativas.
Communicative approach.
Yes, communicative approach. But in the midterms, we don't have speaking, so how can we, it's not the same.
We're ready.
It's not the same. Están en notas varias, pero ¿por qué están en notas varias y deben ir en exámenes?
It's actually, remember that, yes, it's not in the
Individual
important
grades.
grades.
Yeah.
Most important.
I don't know. Maybe it takes a lot of time, that's true. For us, it's one day for oral, one day for writing, exam, but I mean, I think that
That's
it's
part of the
important
other
to
problem,
do
is
it.
we have a two-tier grading system here, if that makes sense. Call it a two-tier. There's like an individual grade, and there's like a other grade or group grade, I don't know, different people have different names for it. You have to pass this, and
In order
for
for
the
the-
other part to
I'm
come into
familiar,
account,
I'm
and then you
familiar with
correct.
this.
And in this,
Yeah.
in the lower levels, we only have the midterm exams, 2 midterm exams and 1 final
And one
exam.
final.
There's no speaking element there, but we're saying, hang on, I mean, what about the speaking? The speaking goes in here, and the speaking goes in here, but only in the sense of oral presentations, which
And it's
is,
20%, only 20% of the 45. That means it's like 9 y el 9% de eso es 1.8.
but also, the other thing there is that oral presentation is not the same as communication. Oral presentation is, I know something and I'm telling you. It's memorized,
Yeah.
That's what they
mechanical.
do.
That's
It's
true.
not
Yes.
communication.
I mean, by the same token, we should bear in mind as well that communicative doesn't necessarily mean oral. I mean, you can quite obviously have, yeah.
Which is what I'm trying to say, is like, if you
Yeah.
look at these here, I
Reading,
mean,
writing, the whole
Yeah.
thing is
Yeah,
communication.
it's all communication.
there's different examples, and I've taken it from different parts here, and there's some of them show a little bit more in terms of like, you're trying to create some sorts of a communicative context there, as much as the exam allows you. But then others show that it's completely unrelated or just isolated. For example, there's an idea of a dialogue here. Of course, it's not real, it's completely etc. But there's something there, and the idea of this, for example, the idioms is to, you have to not just know the idiom, but you have to know how to use it in that, so conjugate, etc. But there's other examples, if you look at, I don't know, for example, I don't know, this type of a situation where all the different elements are completely isolated. It's just simple sentences where there's no connection between the sentences. The answers are there, and here you go, conjugate. If you know the language, you can do that.
Well, yeah, and the other strange thing about that, just straight off the top of my head, if you look at even number 2, even more so, complete the following sentence using will be going to or the present progressive, all 3 of them would be correct. So I'm not.
And the other is
We're not actually
the other is
testing
the
anything.
instruction. I mean, when would you tell a person to complete the sentence in
Yeah.
real life? So you see what I mean? But then this is what we get in the exam. So if we're teaching communication in language, we're not testing communication. We're testing the language structure. That's what we're testing. But then when you give feedback, and when I say, hang on, wait, what are you doing here? We need to think about it. People get upset, and people say, no, I don't have time to fix it. So how do you change these conceptions? Everybody needs to be here, we need to all talk, we need to
I think
go back
that
to
we
the
should
basics.
have one midterm. I mean, all the students should take
And standardized one.
the same for level 1, the same for level 2, the same for level 3, the same for.
There's the possibility of fraud and danger about getting leaked and all that kind of stuff. It opens up.
But
to more
I don't
discussions.
think that, for example, if I design the exam that my students are going to take, I don't think that it's objective. Because I'm going to design the exam thinking in my students. And
Why do you mean it won't be objective?
Yes, sir.
What level
for
is this?
example, when I plan my classes, I think in the student that I have that
Those people
struggles
are
the most.
concrete and physically there.
Yes, I think in the
your
one that
exam
struggle
have
the
to do with
most.
that. Objectivity doesn't have to do with well, I prepare an exam for my students, so no. You want to find out what they have learned. And the objectivity lies on that, Not
So let me
that you
find
love
another
your
way.
students, that you know what they
Another
know,
word.
something like that.
Okay, so it's
And
not
someone
that
else might come and take a look at your exam and come out with the same result. That's objective.
And it should be the
word. No, so
way.
it's another word, but I don't know which one.
Well, no, that's what I mean. I mean, you're looking for something, and doesn't matter whether it's your beloved pets or or students or whatever. Once you design your test and you apply it and you get the results, someone else might come and
Whoever
come,
takes the test.
take the test and review the test and come out with the same results. And say, okay, now this is objective.
That would be the ideal,
That's what you find there.
the ideal one.
Exactly.
The point is, as Tito said, how to get there, how we get there and make it possible to happen. Because I think everything it has been done during these years here at the university has been trying to do that, but we haven't been able to. Because we have tried and you have been working on that and changing it, but that's the point, we haven't been able to get to that specific point. We're
Because
being-
it's about getting into people's minds and changing
Yeah,
their minds, how
exactly.
they do that.
That's what you said, changing the concept.
The thing is that
Yeah.
sometimes I think no, we cannot vote for everything. Some things should
Yeah, but
be,
the
this
thing
is
is
the
that
way
if
and-
you go this way and you go that way and I go another way, then the
No, no,
students
it
can,
will be-
later on, they get mixed up and then you find that they have different levels, different attitudes, different everything.
No, what I think
We
is that, for
haven't come
example,
up
in the
with
meetings.
agreements, that's, you know.
Exactly, but we cannot vote for everything or expect the 30-something of us agree on, for example, exams, because it's never going to happen.
Well, anyway, that's what
No, but that's what we're here.
we are here for, you know, just to begin discussing, seeing, watching, finding out things, and trying to solve the problems we have. It might take 10, 15 years, I don't know, but we are moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's important.
I mean,
Really?
I don't think it's that easy to get there.
No, it's
not.
No, it's not, but but the point is like to start doing it and making changes.
Right, and that's what we're here for, trying to,
If you look at the
Get
example of
moving.
vocabulary, for example, I mean, is this basically what do you have to do? Relate the word with its definition taken directly from a dictionary. I mean, lament, complain, protest. How is the person going to know that they can use this word? There's no context for the word, there's no use, it's just basic identification of I know what this word means, and I think that's.
They go the strict
But if you don't know, you guess. If you don't know,
Or
you
you
can
can
guess.
down something.
But something that we tried when I was doing my master's was that we created like a situation that went along all the competencies that we were evaluating in the exam. For example, it was second level French, and we will have like, okay, the last unit was about inventions and describing objects and everything. So we take a person, we imagine you are studying to be an engineer, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking in French and I have to.
Well,
Yeah, I have the same problem. I was thinking in approche actionnelle, no, ¿cómo se dice en inglés? ¿Cómo se dice?
So we say like you're an engineer, and this character, this person that we imagine is going to be all through the test. So first we listen to that person saying, I have a new task, or to the boss telling him that you have to create this thing, and then in the reading you read something about how to create the new computer of the future, and you have descriptions of how to create the computer. So there you have some vocabulary that can help the person when he goes, when you tell him, now you write a plan to imagine a new computer or something like that. You take all through the test, you take one situation and you give them in one question the tools that will help them answer the others. But you do not give them the answers. You just give them, if they are really using the language, when they come to the writing part, they will say something like, okay, I have to invent something. And in the reading, I saw some words that could help me describe a computer, so I can reuse them. Or I don't want to use this word because that's not the computer I want. I want to use this other one. I remember the teacher in class said this. But designing a test like that, it takes time and it's difficult, but once you get to do it, and they start to understand that they will have something to help them, and that anyway they have to know what you have learned in the class, they start getting better results, and they start feeling like they can use the language. And when you come to the speaking part, you ask them something related to that, to the situation that you imagine in the first place.
it's like a project, like a
It's like a
task.
yes,
You take
right?
a task,
Actually,
which
we
you
were-
do in real life all the time.
Right.
We
And
were
it's
like
the
little
same as the level
projects.
7 exams.
Yes.
In French, we work with little projects because the book,
Yes.
the student book has some, well, they offer,
Yes.
Yeah, like.
they offer some projects, so we use them, and yes, we work everything on that. I think that maybe in French one, we can make una continuación de todo el libro, prácticamente. Ya en segundo, tercero sí se pierde, pero todo se trabaja a veces en proyectos, entonces es. So I mean that.
Yo me siento más cómodo hablando.
Yeah, but.
No, la pregunta es, ¿qué quisiste decir con que el francés uno
Hay una-
es como la continuación de todo?
Yes, each unit have one project to do. But in my way to see it, we can make all these 6 units as a whole project.
Yeah.
So they begin
Together.
to the presentation, then describe people, but we can make, sometimes I work with my students like a story, so they create a whole story with characters, but with the all 6 units. Then, well, in French 2 and 3, we don't have the situation because they work with we have to create recipes.
Yes.
We have to create an object. Yes. We have to talk about
Daily routines also.
routines with work.
Yes, work.
And their career,
Yeah.
their future career.
Why can't you do it in 2 and 3? Because the units are not
Yes,
associated.
like in English, as in English. Yes.
Well, the same, but just-
Because
It
in
depends,
work,
I
mean,
It depends on the level. I think for level 1, I teach level 1 in English, and I get them for the first 3 units. They work on the same thing. They need to write a letter, but they write parts of the letter. So first they write their routines, then they introduce themselves. First they introduce themselves. Then they write a paragraph about their routines, and I correct it. Then they write a paragraph about their hobbies, and then they write a paragraph about their family, and then what we do is we organize everything into one letter. And what they do is they write the letter, the physical letter with stamps and chocolate and candy, and they give it to me, and then I give it to my other students or to Marisa's students,
She
and they
takes
get
a
the
chocolate
letter.
and candy for herself.
No, I
No,
don't
but
give them the
actually
candy
they do a good job.
and it's a step by step, and the
Yeah,
beginning
yeah,
they
yeah.
feel, write a letter, teacher, it's impossible in level 1, but no,
But
they
I have
write
a
paragraphs.
question for you then. Isn't that worth more than an exam? Doesn't that tell you that the student can produce more? Wait, let's just start. Doesn't that exercise tell you
assessment,
that?
exactly.
That tells you, that gives you a better idea
It's a
of the
difference.
student's productive
Yes and no.
capacity than an exam, or not?
Yes and no.
Why?
Yes, because if they write it by themselves and they sit down seriously and thoroughly, of course it is and it's almost real. You never write a letter saying that, but it's a letter about you, and so that the other one, they ask questions, and their friends reply with,
Oh,
but you do
they're
this and that."
expecting the letter.
And they want
What
the letter
about my
back.
letter, teacher?
That's a
Yes.
learning process.
Yeah.
But
That's what
no,
you're
but
assessing,
but no, because when they are at home, they have help with their friends, and they.
That's life.
No, yes, but they're not as transparent as they should. What I.
But that's part of the process. They're level 1, so they need help. They need
No,
a lot of
no,
help.
no,
They
but
can't
sometimes
teach
in
it
other
in-
levels they.
That's life.
they
In
get-
life, in life you
The
have
problem
help.
is
You
that
have
they
your cell
get-
phone, you have your
But
friend.
what she means is like doing that by her.
Yes, no, but if I ask you to write, if I ask you to write my master's report, is that
The process
valid?
is not
You
the
have your
same.
advisor, yeah.
No, but if I ask you to write my master's report, is that valid? I mean, who knows, you helped me, you
But
wrote the part.
that's cheating. That's
Yeah,
cheating.
well, but how can you, the line between getting help and cheating is just so fine.
That's true.
Oh,
Yes, it's hard to tell.
this is very important because here we have the difference between assessment and evaluation. That's exactly what we're trying to say. Assessment, you realize how the process is coming along and what the students need in order to improve, to get better results, to learn. That's assessment. and then okay, you made certain mistakes, your paragraph is not well organized, and you're helping them get there. But then you have to evaluate, see whether they really learned what they were supposed to learn according to our objectives of our plan. That's the idea. So we know that they're doing well. They're learning the process of learning, but we want to find out.
But maybe in the exam we could have, the exams could be different.
That's
They,
that's where I want to.
they should, they could, they probably will
They
be
ought to
different
be.
by the end of the semester,
They
right?
want to be-
Well, I mentioned that at the beginning, yeah, that if, that there will be a,
But we.
They could, they would, and they will, they should. But
yes.
for example, okay,
You
so
know
get
what,
them to write, huh?
It's still if they change.
Well,
It involves a lot more work.
I mean, that's the thing, is
But it's not
there
that
a-
easy, it's a process, I mean, it's.
Is there a will to overhaul the whole examinations from top to bottom?
there's a few teachers who are willing to do it, and then there's a good number that might not want to change them, because it's extra work. They have semesters and semesters and semesters of exams where they can get exercises from. They basically, if you need, okay, I need an exam in 3, 2, 1 now, they come and they paste it and they put it together in a
Yeah.
second.
You let them-
Yes, but every time we've had changes here at the university or processes that require change, it has been the same thing. No, but how are we gonna change the book, and blah, blah, blah,
Why?
they're learning, and they complain, and they whine, and they that. And then we said, no, but look, and it took a while. Finally, there was no other choice, and then they accepted it, and now nobody remembers the book we used to use. I mean, it was just a matter
Yeah, but
of,
it's
No.
difficult
it's
to.
difficult,
That's
but
what I meant, that
It's not
we
that
shouldn't
easy.
vote in everything. Some things are, we're gonna change the book, sorry.
sorry, but
No, but the idea is that we have begun now, right now, we're beginning to discuss these issues and see what we come up with. That's the idea.
And a serious discussion, a serious academic discussion, an assessment on what it should be like. Well, the final conclusion of a serious discussion might be that we need to change the exams, and then there's several people here saying that we need to, and then there's a quality assurance process that we're gonna follow. And so that's just gonna come naturally. If some teachers, I mean, for some teachers, it's gonna be hard, they like doing things the same. But
I mean,
either they accept it or they can,
Well, I
work
think-
elsewhere.
I think the other thing is, and I've already sort of half mentioned this, is if the university is absolutely serious about the quality assurance process, and I think it is, then it doesn't matter what the teachers say. This will have to happen, because once you've got a new set of competencies and objectives and so on, which actually focus on intercultural communication and all the rest of it, then logically the assessment has to fit in with the new framework. And if the teachers don't like it, they don't like it, but it's going to happen.
But
It's
I think in addition to the official requirement of the university, I think each one of us has a responsibility, and we've got a huge responsibility in our hands in terms of, yes, training people to use a language, to communicate, etc. I think it should be within us to identify that there are some incoherences in the process, and we should be able to accept the brunt of the work if we know that those incoherences are going to disappear. I mean, it's part of our responsibility, it's part of our job. Yes, it's more work, but what are you going to do? That's life.
No, it's part of our job.
If you accepted the responsibility of
That's what
doing
we have to
something,
do.
you
You
got to
do.
complete.
You
And
do,
life
you
is
do.
like that, you've got to evolve, you've got to change.
Yeah, and if you actually realise that you've all agreed that the exam is not fit for purpose, then
Like to grade or
what are you going to do? You're not going to keep it, are you?
Teacher that doesn't like to be graded, that's different.
I suppose
Yeah,
we
well,
need
it's
to
not that
set
fun,
it.
it's part of the process.
Yeah, it is.
As long as I see the benefits,
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
other
we can
problem,
start from there.
the other problem that comes up is that I think Ramon and I have noticed this from our students quite a lot, and probably Andrea too, but I don't speak to Andrea that much. But in terms of level 7 and 8, it seems like there's a big jump from level 6 to 7, because suddenly we're expecting a lot more from them and a lot more different things from them. they've been sort of coming through this training process of levels 1 to 6 where things sometimes are difficult, sometimes are manageable, they have a plan, they know how things work, exams are the same, teachers roughly do the same thing, etc. And then suddenly they come to level 7 and poof, everything changes because we've changed everything.
Yeah.
There's no book, the way we teach, the
Like
critical
where they
thinking
are
awareness,
evaluated.
the exams, everything changes. And so that's another reason why we need to go back to the lower levels and find a way to soften that. You know.
On the higher levels are much more.
If we had
More fun.
projects, for example, in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects close to what they are expected to do in level 7 and 8, probably they wouldn't feel.
But then that leads to a different question, and I can of worms is the use of books in levels 1 to 6 that restricts you a lot. So, for example, level 5, part of the reason I want to do different things, but I know that at the end of the semester or during the semester, they're going to have to answer exams based on grammar and vocabulary that is specifically in that book.
Yeah.
And I have to choose. Okay, either it's the fun, interesting stuff, or I'm going to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I can marry the two, and I do it. Other times it's difficult. And I've got to stick to the book in a sense. Not stick to the book in, okay, open your book to page this, no, but to the material or the grammar specifically in the book. And at times it fits in well, at times it's like I feel like I'm rushing and trying to fit in all that grammar and vocabulary so that they're ready for the exams and this work. So again, so that opens up another discussions in terms of books. Level 7 and 8 in that sense works beautifully.
I know. But the thing is,
Or at least for me.
we have 3,000 students now.
Wow,
So no books with 3,000 kids.
that's a lot.
This is why I say
No,
opening up
because
a can of
imagine if we
worms.
have a hard time making, asking teachers to change an exam, can you imagine all the trouble for everyone with teaching with no?
And we need to come up with a good program, but also a program that is workable for the teachers and that is reasonably practical for, I mean, we have way too many students. There's 3,000 students in all of the languages, so we need to keep it, I mean, I know that following the book is boring sometimes, but that's one way that we can make sure that all of the students are at the same level, because then the 500 students that we have in level 1 now, when they go to level 2, if the teachers decided that, no, well, I'm just going to teach whatever, and then they're not ready for the, yes, or they cover topics. So having some sort of program, I think it's important and it's necessary. Otherwise, 40 people and 3,000 students will just go crazy. But I do think that we could come up with some sort of balance between having some material and then and getting the university to buy them, because with the scholarships the university buys the material for the kids, so that's important. If we had copies, then, for example, like we do in level 7 and 8, it comes to a point where the teachers are making copies and the kids have no responsibility on their own, or if they do, then they don't get enough copies from the university if they have a scholarship. So it needs to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
No, it's a complicated process, but we need to start somewhere. And I
if
think
we
we're
write
starting
our
at several points of the semester.
Yes.
And if we write our own books,
Well, with level 7 and 8, we wrote our own book. Ramon actually, for the first time, printed them and took them to the copiers. And he said it looked nice. He printed everything. But designing material, I mean, how many semesters have we been working on that material? 3 years. Now it's obsolete.
But we'll continue to, because that keeps changing. It's never perfect.
But it's expensive, and that's only 2 levels. Imagine doing that for 6 levels.
3 years or
That's
4?
the other thing.
4
It's
years.
just levels.
2012.
That's why Tito said at the beginning, okay, it could take 10 years.
But for example,
It's just a
but for
point to
example,
start.
I used to teach level 8, and this semester I changed it to level 1. I am so happy.
Me too. I'm so happy. I have to tell the boss.
No, because in level 8 it demands a lot of reading of the writing that my students do a lot. But
Writing and
I
rewriting.
decided, but this semester I decided that I wanted to do things that are similar in level 8 with the students in level 1. For example, allow them to practice more than what I should have expected to do as a teacher before I was a level 8 teacher.
That's true.
So speak and write and so
Produce?
yes. Not all the time with the book. I have been using the book, and the good thing is that, for example, in my classrooms, I have one classroom, all the students receive the book from the university. So yes or yes, all my students are going to have a book.
Yeah.
But still, I've decided I'm going to cover one part of the book, but I'm not going to base everything. I'm going to allow them to produce something every class.
But I think
Doesn't matter
that
if it's a sentence.
I was going to say something like that because the point, I don't think the point is the book. I mean, probably, yeah, exactly. And actually, you can have the book and not evaluating the book. I mean, the book is just part of the class, and you should include it, but it's just part of it. I mean, it's not like it shouldn't be the focus of the assessment or anything else. That's what I think.
The thing is that still we have to use the book, because if not, then how in other
No, and
levels?
we need a program like a map to follow or something. Because
And if you get the kids to buy the book, or you get the university to buy the
And then-
book,
and then-
you have no idea how much it costs to get 500 books for freshman kids.
should
They need to
be-
get 500 books for the level 1, and then the next semester they're gonna need those level 1 students are gonna be 500 books for level 2. That costs a lot of money. And if we say no, we don't want the book anymore. Wait, we just spent, I don't know,
Exactly. We have
millions
already-
and millions. That book is 85,000 pesos per kid. Multiply by 500.
It's the way
We received, of the 951 students who entered the university, probably 600 had scholarships. So,
Wow.
Most of my students receive the book from the university, so yes or yes, we have to use the book. But
But I think he said the teacher needs to bring, I mean, as she
Yes.
said, the book is a tool, or just a tool. You got 2 hours, for example, in a class, you're not gonna spend a whole 2 hours using the book. I mean, just one part for the grammar, vocabulary, the rest, bring all the things so they can speak. I
or
mean,
use the
it's up-
listening
it's
because
up
they're
to-
there,
it's
they're
up-
nice. and
It's
then-
up to
And
the
the book is
teacher.
good.
If you wanna stick to the book, of course, it's gonna be not only, I mean, boring for students, because they will hate it. Imagine from 2 to 4, teaching with the book the whole time.
No,
They-
we're from
kill you.
4 to 6.
They will fall asleep. I got 4 to 6. So I mean,
Even
of course, we use the book because I know there's some vocabulary, they can read it, but I think we need to do all something different. Because that's the idea, we integrate different abilities. So the idea is that we can focus on
But
those.
probably it's like as Samir said before, I mean, it's not a matter of the book is important, well, I think, that's my perspective, but the point is like, the exam should be like reflecting what we need them to produce or to be able to get or something, or at least to start making the changes but it's not that easy.
But I think we should
But
agree
we
on
don't-
the way we're teaching. I mean, that's it. Because I mean, if you agree on that, of course, that's gonna be reflected in the test.
we never agree on anything.
In testing,
No.
no, because, for instance, you say that,
We don't
you
know
said
what-
testing, if test is focused on grammar, so that must be that in class, we're focusing too much on that. So I think I mean, we can do reading, writing, work on grammar and everything for communicative purpose. I
Well,
mean,
the exam has reading, has listening, has grammar, vocabulary.
And
It
the
doesn't
reading
include,
parts, I don't have particular problem. I
It's
think
more like
I-
the grammar.
Obviously, it depends on how each person asks the questions and stuff, but that's another different discussion. But it's more about the grammar and vocabulary that I think. I think instead of the grammar and vocabulary, we should be asking them to write and speak. That's what I think.
I agree.
Obviously.
I don't think instead, I think additionally too.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, fine, some sort of combination of.
To go back to the example I was talking about, you can ask them to do, like, for example, that thing about the present, what was it? The present progressive, etc., but not ask them that way. Put it in a situation. This engineer is writing his report for his boss. Complete the report with the right form. And you have explained what it is. In that question, if you really want to assess grammar or vocabulary, you can even tell them, use the present progressive.
Exactly.
And there is the report, and you take away only the present progressive, and then they have a context, and they are answering with that structure that you really want to know if they are able to build, but in a context.
But it's relatively free production and not isolated.
But it's controlled,
Utterances
yeah.
here and there. It's like a text. It's something coherent, cohesive.
Yes,
produced.
instead of
And it has a
complete.
purpose.
Something
grammar
else
is just for the purpose,
Or not.
not
There's
just
a
for the
reason.
grammar itself.
So,
Yes.
and they get to understand that as well, that when
And
I'm
they have
using that
an
language is
example
because I'm
for
doing things
the
with it,
right
I'm not
part.
just answering random questions here and there with words here and sentences there. It's
Yeah, and also it doesn't even tell you that much linguistically, because you could be an extremely competent user of English, but you've never come across the word to moan. I mean, what's the chances of that? Perfectly possible, isn't it? It wouldn't mean that you shouldn't fail English if you've never heard the word to moan, because you've never been, I mean, it doesn't really tell you a great deal, does it?
and the thing is, there's no
I think
second
this is the
opportunity.
pity that Sammy's talking about. It's just grabbing things at random and saying, do you know that? Do you happen to know that? Do you happen to know that?
And there's no second opportunity.
And there's no
to
second
fix.
opportunity. You've lost the chance to your mark, yeah.
Whereas with level 7, if they screw up on their,
Yeah.
mess up
Yeah.
on their writing, I'll say, okay, come back.
Right.
Think about it again, because I told you about the structure, we discussed it, the problems you have in your writing. Why don't you try it again?
But that is, it's good to do it also with the first levels. I do it like, when I ask them, like, write 3 lines about yourself, I do not correct them. I just mark where they have mistakes. Then I show another sample, a different one. Then I ask them to review their text, bring it next week. But I tell them, do not change it totally. I know what you wrote the first time. And I usually ask them the first time to write in the class. I take it, I check, and I tell them, you will correct this text, and you will work on this. I do not want something new, you will work on this. So when they come and they have changed something, I say, somebody wrote this from you, because your first one, I try to take pictures or something. Your first one said this, and this. Well, I have it easy because I only have 2 groups. When you have more groups, it's a bit more difficult to remember what they wrote. But
When you put it in Dropbox, and what they do is they work on
Yes.
the same file, or you download, or you ask them to upload it in Moodle, and then you download
Yeah.
everything, and they put it back there.
I put it there, so I keep a copy, and I know what they had the first time, and I'm very clear with them that they have to work on that text. Even if it wasn't as good as they wanted it to be, it's what they could do, and they are going to get better by working on it.
They can refine it.
Yes, they can refine it, but not change it in a way that you know what Ian is saying, that somebody touched this.
Find an expert.
Yes.
You see?
See what's
Simple.
happening.
Pues,
Very
simple.
simple.
Very simple.
Very.
piece of cake?
Very simple.
Somebody wrote it?
That's what we have in meeting.
Okay, there are some new
What
words.
if we design, for example, what we consider would be an appropriate midterm, and for example, for the second exam, and we use it as a pilot and see what results we get. So we don't wait until the semester is over, and for the first midterm, I don't think we're going to have that time. But we can plan or design something here for the second midterm in all the levels that we have and see if it works or if it doesn't.
I don't know if that's
So-
ethical or legal, because you change things during the semester with students.
No, but it's that
Surprising.
it can be only the structure of the exam, not the evaluation system.
But they're used to some things.
What we can,
Usually there's no piloting at the university. They said that if it works, then do it for everyone. If it doesn't, it's not fair with the students who are just getting, that
Like
are
extra
working as
benefits or-
guinea pigs. So they, usually when you say, when I've asked, well, can we pilot something? For example, I wanted to pilot the book. Well, let's just take one group and pilot the book. And they said, no, you don't pilot. If the book's good, you do it for everyone. If the book's not good, then why put those students, those guinea pigs, as
through that process.
through that process,
So then, like, for example, a workshop before the midterm that has that structure of what we imagine is good. So they
Yes.
take the workshop and then with that we can see if it works or not.
Or-
Not exactly the midterm.
I mean, yeah, you could pick a group and say you are extremely fortunate, you are so lucky you're going to be examined twice. Once for real and once slightly, because we want to test out a new exam. And that would be interesting as well, because you would then compare the scores of the individual students on the two exams.
Yes.
Compare the overall, would the bounce be higher? Quite an interesting little experiment, that, if you could persuade the students.
I could.
Me too. Do you want a candy? So please.
Yeah, get on with
Two
it.
candies.
Yeah,
For 3 candies.
you could do
For
that, and
three
then
candies,
you'd
right,
have
that's
some
right.
concrete,
For
you'd have some concrete data to work with then, wouldn't you? If the same students had done 2 different exams.
I would have my students do that.
Yeah.
Poesía.
So assessment is the topic that we're gonna start this seminar with.
Yes,
How you can you call it? Satisfactory?
this is some years.
Samir's
Some years can of worms.
¿Cómo se dice?
Es que
This is my tutorial.
Tocatorial.
Oh, it's a
This is
very
My
short
tutorial, this is Samir's seminar.
Tocatorial.
Let me see.
No, para
I'm
hacer
gonna
también un topic,
Tito's
hacer-
tutorial. No, the idea is, okay, we have taken up just one aspect of assessment, which is testing. But there are the other, so many aspects having to do with teachers' formation, preparation,
Corrections.
the university requirements, materials available, well, so many
Error
things.
correction.
Looking at the common framework, European. Is that what we can do? The time the students have to really work on the learning of English. The attitudes, so many possibilities we have, so many issues we have to take up in order to really come up with something important, or at least interesting. So that's the idea, but in this case, you know, Samir took up the case of testing to show that we were doing some discrete point test evaluation. That's what we were doing. And then we realized that we don't make agreements. So everybody goes that way. I try to follow my boss. You know, she's teaching me how to do things, and I'm learning. But since I don't understand exactly what's going on in her mind, I try to imagine and follow her, and that's it.
It takes time, or you will get it.
Well, I don't know. I'm sort of slow, so. But there are no agreements, either theoretically or methodologically speaking. And in the curriculum design and everything, you know, we need to get together more often and take up these issues so that we can say, okay, now we have begun with this business of evaluating exams, testing. I don't know if you want to continue working on that and see if we do that, then we have to compare this to the European framework and see if that's what we want to do and we can really do in order to get our students to a B1 or a B2 level. No.
I have a question, and I'm sorry for my.
So do I, but I have more than one
Eh,
questions.
No, what would be, because you can start from the assessment of competences in class, and you go from the first, like from the class to the exams to the final product, or you can go backwards. Yes, start in assessing. Hello. We can start doing it backwards. So, for example, if we have the final, if we know what our final objective is, we want our students to be at a B2 level, and then we go backwards. Okay, this is how we evaluate them. Does this, or did we go from the beginning to the end? Yes. No, I mean, am I being clear? No.
Yeah.
It's
Completely clear. The thing is that this is a holistic
yes,
situation.
but just
You begin by the thing that seems to be more relevant, more visible here, which is the testing. So
yes, but to
we can
organize
begin
that.
there and then try to see what we're doing to get there.
Like starting from the result, right? And see how,
Yes, but testing, as you said, is only one part of assessment. That's
course.
just one
That,
grade.
that's the final part of assessment. That's testing.
So we go
But
backwards from
it's-
testing, or should we go forward from
It's
testing?
I'm trying to think about the real production that my students do in level 5. And the
You can think of it?
opportunities, no, I'm trying to think and say it at the same time. The opportunities for real production that they have in the whole exam or assessment design in level 5. For example, the exams, so testing specific, discrete point testing, and oral presentations, and reading opportunities, homework, etc. And it's the other points, I try to manage them as a process. I mean, they do it, I give them some feedback, maybe there's some correction, and we go back and forth in a sense, because they're sort of less formal than the exam situation in a sense. No? But I think most of those points reflect more the process of learning. They're sort of more in par with the process of learning, where it's like going back and forth, going over things, reviewing, progress. There's some sort of request, and again you go, that's it. Why did I pick testing as a specific point? Because that's the point that I see that there's no coherence, or there's little coherence between that part and the rest of the teaching and the assessment. That's what I think. But you're right, in terms of assessment in general, not only the testing portion, and possibly some of us are doing things a little bit differently. Although we have a general scheme, oral presentation, reading, etc., some of us are possibly doing things a little bit differently in terms of grading and testing opportunities where the student produces the language. And yes, I agree, we need to look at all of those ideas as well and come up with something, well, not just look at testing, but look at the whole assessment process in all the levels and see how we improve that. And one of the things, for example, is writing. Writing is, it's not there. Even in my course, it's not there, and I try to, I know, I admit, I don't follow it up because there's never time, I feel lazy sometimes, because I have to grade, etc. Whereas in level 7, we don't have that option. Whether you feel like doing it or not, it's there, you have to do it, it's part of the syllabus. But levels 1 to 5, I don't know how much your students write, and I know yours do because you told me, and it is as well because you respond to it.
she's gonna work with me this
I
semester.
don't know how much written production there is in the other levels or other courses or other teachers. My students don't write much about it. Whatever.
Very little, I guess. Very little writing.
Yeah, no,
Very
no,
little
no.
writing, I guess.
But then in level 7 and 8, suddenly there's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
demand. They have to write quite a lot.
That's why when last semester Robinson told me to make the exam, the French exam, the new French exam to the laboratorio, for the laboratorios, to put it in Moodle, the placement exam for French. He told me, no, just give me the question and the answers. But I said, but there's an exercise, a writing exercise, or two writing exercises. But he told me, no, but then I talked to Diana and I told her that I really know the level that a student have when he's writing, not matching or checking a list. I really know his level when he talks and when he writes. So yeah, there's since level 1, I think that maybe in level 1 we can make, for example, in the first midterm, to complete with a little small writing, or maybe what I do in French 1 is complete a formulario. How do you say? A format. That's it. It's easy, but it's easy for the four first weeks that he has been in English 1. Then in the second midterm we can put it really to make sentences, but with a big idea that conduct all the exams. But
The coherent text.
yes. But yeah, because everyone can check and match some letters, some verbs, but write a coherent text, it's different.
But we're talking about a big,
Even in
big change in terms of volume.
In terms of volume for the teachers?
Volume, yes, because if you have 6 courses, it's like 120 students that you have to. Midterm 1, midterm 2, and final exam. Oh, well, I know not final exam, but again.
But for example, how much can a level 1 write? Paragraph. That is not a lot of time.
1-2 paragraph. My guys in French 1, they make 1-2 paragraphs and they finish. There's not too much, but I think that at least it's something.
No, yeah, but
Something
it's
that
not that it's hard for the
I don't know,
students, it's not that it's
but
hard for the
it's
students, but it's hard for the teacher to grade. When you have
That's
6 classes
correct,
and you need to have,
Yes,
you
but
need to correct 120 paragraphs.
No,
yes, I
it's not
understand,
easy,
but I mean, it's part of the job of the teacher. I do it. My colleagues in French, we do that every semester.
What do you do?
We
Correct the
correct the writing,
Oh,
and we
yes.
correct, and we make oral exams
It's-
all the semester for the 3, 1, or 6, or 7 groups that we have. Of course, that takes a lot of time and sometimes and headaches. Headaches, yes.
Give you headaches.
When I finish my oral exams, I have headaches, but sometimes.
It's part of the
But also loud. I mean, when I'm reading those exams, those writing exams, and I mean, how many times I told him that, or the story that they create. They create a lot of stories and very good stories. And that's part that as Diana Rengifo told before, there are also some parts in the other parts of the exam that they can reach the answers. And they, I don't know, I mean.
Oh yes, coming with a new evaluation, with a new type of exam.
But it's part of the process of changing. It's not that easy, but
Yes, no, but if it has to be done, it has
do
to be
it
done,
or
that's
do it,
it.
exactly.
But
But what, okay.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that was what.
It's gonna rain today because I didn't bring my raincoat.
It's because we get
he didn't bring his raincoat for the motorcycle.
It's waterproof, no problem.
No, but I control the rain in Cali,
Where do you live?
in Papalina. An hour and a half by car, 15 minutes on bike.
No, that's chairs.
No, but that's.
Okay, now what can we do about that?
So let's decide on.
A good piece of work could be just take one of those exams, one of the levels, and try to see what weaknesses and strength, and see how we could propose that the exam be more you know, more unified and coherent. So that you have a holistic exam and
Is there a piece of
discrete
text
point
that we
test
can
or
read?
something like that, maybe we could do something like that. Because if I know that my exams are going to be structurally designed or grammatically
Design.
designed, I concentrate my teaching on grammar.
Yeah.
But if I know that at the end of the course, I do, you know, I'm sort of, you know,
No, I don't believe you.
okay.
You're
But if I
Italian.
know that at the end of the semester, my exam is going to be a holistic test or something important, I try to move in that direction.
Yeah. This is
Well, that's my
this is the,
hypothesis.
well, that's the classic washback or backwash, isn't it? The effect of exams on teaching. It happens whether you want it to or not. It just does.
I have in correspondence to what you're saying. At the moment, the way I teach grammar, although my exams are focused on grammar and vocabulary, and I don't teach grammar and vocabulary only for the purpose of exam.
Isolation.
No, and or at least I try not to. Maybe somebody will come to my class and tell me I'm doing the wrong thing, but in my mind, I'm not doing it in that intention, with that intention. I'm trying for them to use that language in communication, whether it be written, spoken, etc. So all we're trying to do is, in the exam, we're trying to do the same. The focus doesn't move away from the grammar and vocabulary per se, in a sense. It's still there because that's part of the language. That's what they need to produce to be able to communicate. And it's just the way we ask them to produce it is different. It's not a discrete point, it's more unified in the sense of a text. So I think the problem will come where some of the teachers are really focused on teaching grammar per se. If we still have any of those teachers, I don't know, in terms of rules and concentrating on grammar, maybe that's where the disconnect will come. But if we're thinking about teaching grammar in a communicative way, and if we're thinking about teaching grammar for its functionality, then it won't be a problem in the way. I mean, there won't be a great change in the way.
How
we
many
teach,
of
just
our
in-
colleagues are minded like you? Do you think all of us?
I don't see
I don't know.
classes, so I don't know.
I don't know. But if you have sort of an example of what you could do with language
I agree.
in use, maybe we could get to so many teachers that could say, okay, this is something that I can do as well. Well, that's,
No, I like your example. I like your idea of taking an exam, something concrete to work on. And looking at the text, looking at the book, the content of what's supposed to be developed in the course, looking at the exam and trying to find a way where we can mold that exam so it's a little bit more communicative, less discrete points, yes, in that sense. And we come up with an idea. I'm sure that will take us to a
I
lot
would-
of discussions.
I would recommend that a small, I mean, I don't know if Sammy, if you want to take charge of it, I would recommend that a group of 2 or 3 maximum people do that. I would work on it, pick an exam at random and work on it, have a look at the syllabus, and then present the results back to this group in
I like
in
that.
2 or 4 weeks' time or something like that.
I like that.
Just as a work in progress, just to give us something to talk about.
Means
So we can see if
a
it's
month
going
from
in the right-
today, someone, well, that team
We
should
have a
come.
meeting in 2 weeks.
No. Tim is suggesting in a month or so.
2 weeks will be better, wouldn't it?
I know. Of course,
But it's not much
but
time.
I don't know
It's not much time.
if the 3 people who are going to do that.
Yeah, if it's 2 or
Yeah,
3 people.
Actually,
Actually, I mean, 2 or 3 people working for an afternoon could probably come up with something reasonably
I
substantial.
volunteers.
I can volunteer too.
2.
1, 2, 3.
Well, yeah.
I offer my level 1
So
class
for
exam.
next
I offer
meeting,
my one.
The next meeting, that would be great.
No, I offer my level 1 exam from last semester. I mean, I haven't written my exam for this semester yet. I'm sure that I'm supposed to be writing it right
something
now.
that has been used already.
But I
Just
can
work
offer
on
an old
that.
exam. I have tons and tons of level 1 exams. We can take a level 1 and a level 3 and a level 6 and a level 8 or something like that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Oh, that's
1,
great.
3, 5,
Did you
7.
take
Wow.
down the volunteers for next meeting? Andrea,
Write it down.
She's taking notes, yes.
you're taking notes.
So we would compare
We would check.
the old version and the new version.
That would be that, I mean, that's. that
Compare
would be
the old
my
version
idea.
and the new version?
Just
No.
basically talk us through the old version.
No,
and
no,
say-
it's-
Maybe all
Or bring them.
Something that has been
And
done.
then say,
Check
this,
that
this is what we
out.
suggest, yeah.
Just, okay, these are the weaknesses.
Yeah, and we would suggest
find
doing
here,
this and this.
and this could be,
And I think it might be an idea to talk to the French teachers.
We
as
all
well
be
before,
on the same level?
Well, let's
Yeah.
work different, let's
Yeah.
work different
yeah,
levels.
because you have
I
to
have
team
it
up
from
so
that
that,
And
you know,
So we all be on level
on
one?
one level, yes.
No, and why don't we
And
organize
we
them
do not
two teams?
volunteer.
Because there are different people, I mean,
No, that's a
it's
nice idea.
two teams or like a team of French teachers.
Mm.
I mean, I could participate with French, I just wouldn't understand anything.
But
So probably
they don't have any problems.
They don't
Their
have
exams are
any
fine.
We have everything.
Oh, that's why they
But
should
because
be in
of
the
their
team.
exams are perfect.
You should present, you should show your.
So they should show their exams. They
That's
should,
French for English.
they should
Joey,
show
Joey.
their exams.
You should
But the
work
French
on
teachers
ours.
come up with their.
But we could have them two
So we can
teams.
meet together and we can meet with the
That would be
English
helpful,
team.
yeah.
And see
Yes,
what-
and
what
we
is-
compare and we talk about the
That would be
both.
great,
It's because
yeah,
Okay, so, two teams,
fantastic.
we have one here, Tim. No,
Teams, not teams. Teams, not teams.
Well, he himself is a team.
Team and team himself a team.
Team in the speaking.
But I think we should have a French teacher with us.
Yeah, I think it's a
don't know
really
who's
good
working.
idea.
We are
I think
working.
it's a really good
with her.
idea.
Is it?
Well, let's then have two teams.
Yeah.
One
Yeah, we're
working
gonna-
in a lower level exam and then another one working in a higher level exam.
Yeah,
And then
that would be great.
You know what I'm saying? Two teams?
So there,
So a lower
there
level
are
and a higher
two
level.
teams in English.
two teams in English and
In
then one
English.
French teacher.
With
in
a French,
each.
with one French
Ah,
teacher,
okay,
one French teacher in
okay,
each team, yeah.
Now I get it.
Exactly.
I was kind of.
With the cooperation of.
Okay, so just tell me where
That's
I
right.
am.
Okay, so who's volunteer? 1, 2,
The
3.
entente cordiale and
Five.
all of
I
that.
teach level one also.
So I have one.
And the
team.
French
Then of
teachers?
I got level one.
Yes.
so
I
it's-
have Diana and
You got level 1,
Diana
so
and
then.
Jana,
and I-
But you have level
Okay.
8, right, Borisov?
who,
There's nobody
who are you
else.
going to work with?
There's nobody
So
else.
two English teams.
Two English teams. One of a higher level, that could be
And
level
one of the
either 7
lower.
or 8, you decide.
No, but
No, we're.
We told them 7 and 8.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah.
have problems. It's 1 to 6, right?
The French teachers cooperate.
Ah, with the,
English
okay, inside the.
Yeah,
Okay.
they team
Where I
up
am.
with them.
Oh,
So you have French agents within each English team.
So they have a different,
Level one, level four, and level eight.
Okay, so we.
Okay.
4 if you want. So because all
You
of
don't
us
have
don't
to
teach,
follow.
you teach one grade.
1 and 4.
1 for 2. What do you teach?
And now level one.
Only 1? And then it's 1 only. And
Andrea is 1 and 3.
1, 3, and 6.
I teach 6.
So bad.
Okay, so yeah. we can-
and,
One,
and Alex,
someone who teaches a higher level joins the higher level.
are
Yeah,
you teaching a higher level?
5 and 6.
We're also teaching, I'm teaching 5, yes.
You're
Sure,
teaching
it's
5.
very interesting.
Okay, so how,
so we've got a 5, somebody, you're going to work on
So
5.
let's do level 1.
I think so, yes.
Okay, and somebody on level
I was
Level
working
one
on
and
1
five.
and
1 and 5.
1 and 5?
1 and 5
Okay, so I'll work 1.
with a
Now
French,
it's five.
with a French
Okay,
teacher.
Andrea, please,
So
Andrea.
Maritza, Johnny, and I
Andrea,
And
please,
then,
And your
No,
French.
I mean.
and Joanna
So
was
that
on
we
level 1.
remember.
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
Johnny, Joanna, Maritza, and Diana, level 1.
1.
And then Samir, Borisov,
Andrea?
Andrea, and the other Diana,
Level
guys are
5.
higher levels, level
You can call me
5.
Lorena. If you want,
Level
you don't
five?
want confusion, just.
5 or 4 or 6, whatever.
Lena, what's your last name? Ramírez.
Rengifo.
Rengifo.
Just say Lorena, it will be easier.
Ah, okay. No, I like Diana.
Lorena.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
We have 4 Dianas now in the department.
Oh,
Diana
really?
Valverde, Diana Rengifo, Diana Toro, Diana Diaz.
So Andrea, Diana?
She's a new English teacher that I had.
You
to
just
hire.
told me.
I hired 2 teachers.
Ah, Diana
She's on
Toro,
Saturday.
right.
Huh?
Saturday.
I
She's
remember
teaching
her.
Saturdays,
I have
yeah.
seen her.
One Jamaican in the department.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
We need like 2 or 3 children.
Now we have a John and a Johnny.
Oh, that's great.
I saw that there and I said, wow, they're calling me Johnny now, and it was Johnny.
Oh, they love me so much.
They like me. I'm so dear.
So what level
Take care. Good to see
do you
you.
want to get up to Ramírez? John? Alexander?
There we go.
Okay.
This has been a very productive meeting.
But probably.
So,
What level?
since rain is threatening to come
Lo
down,
siento, tengo que retirar.
we should stop
Good to see
here.
you.
And
Que tengan buen
we
día.
will meet
Maybe.
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks time. So a plan
Okay.
for this, a plan for the seminar for the, so first do the academic discussion on assessment. That's the first issue, assessment. Just so that I know, I'm sorry, Dr.
I have a
Quito,
second-
know that.
As Samir
Sorry,
is,
I know that.
I have a
know
second
that.
can of worms. Should we open it now?
Yes.
yeah, for this seminar, or this tutorial,
Okay, so for the tutorial, did you guys meet?
we decided to work on assessment and evaluation. And Tim has pointed out how important this was since John Deere is doing this
Quality,
quality, I don't know what.
It's crucial. It's got to be
Learning quality.
And so that'll be divided with the.
totally in line. Totally in line.
Yeah, but we have that, we have
And
teaching
this has
methodology,
lots of
practices.
issues to take up.
This seminar could be a master's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so much for that. So meeting is over, the talkatorial is over.
Thank you.
So was that kind of work?
Have a pleasant evening and a very good night.
Ya voy a arreglar la puerta y llegar a buscarme en la casa.
Who's in charge of the camera? You? Okay.
I'm the camera
Okay,
guy.
bye, Maya.
Porque está ahí que cayó.
Progress, thanks.
It's not raining, I might make it.